This episode of Taqueando is brought to you by our friends at MVA.wine. You know something I've learned traveling for food? The best meals usually happen when you don't have a plan. You're just walking around, following your instincts. Maybe you see a line of locals at a stand, and suddenly you're eating the best thing you've had all year. Wine works the same way. The other day, Luca, Robert, and I had a chance to taste a few bottles from the folks at MVA.wine, and it had that same feeling. The kind of wines you usually only find because someone puts you onto them. Their process is kind of wild. A few times a year, they get together at a farmhouse in Tuscany and blind taste 50 or 60 wines from tiny producers around the world. Every bottle has to get a unanimous yes. Only 6 make it. Most of these producers barely export, so these are wines you almost never see on shelves here in LA. They keep the whole thing small too, around 600 members. That's about all the wine these producers can spare. If you're curious, they set up something special for listeners of Taqueando and the LA Food Podcast. For listeners of Taqueando and the LA Food Podcast, the first 20 people who sign up with code LA Food get $50 off their first collection. Go to mva.wine/subscribe and use the code LA Food. That's mva.wine/subscribe and use code LA Food. Hey everyone, welcome to Taqueando. I'm your host, Bill Esparza, and this week we are heading to CDMX, Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City, for part 3 of this 3-part series on dining in Mexico City. In this leg, I'm going to talk to you about hotels, fine dining restaurants, and the overall international culinary scene that's happening in Mexico City right now, and whether you want to be a part of that or you want to follow me for some of that real Mexican food. You know, I'm talking Mexico City style cuisine. But first, at Taqueando, eating antojitos is a way of life from the world's most celebrated dining rooms to the gritty stands and storied market stalls that preserve culture. Life is short, so we must eat well. And here are this week's antojitos rundown. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since my dinner there, but I had the most incredible time at Alto. Um, I've been wanting to talk about this restaurant for a couple of weeks. It's a couple of weeks ago that I was there, and I just had the most amazing experience, you know, with dining with Chef Juana and Chef Esteban, both who are both from Uruguay and Argentina, respectively. And they've combined to create what's a unique concept. It's really a South American style of dining that's influenced by those countries, Uruguay, Argentina, their shared culture, and the parrilla, that spirit of cooking over fire. Um, but something different is going on. And I had, an interesting conversation with Chef Juana when I was there. And we're going to have them on in a future episode to talk about this. Like, people, I don't know. I don't get it. People don't understand South American cuisine. And to me, it's not complex. I guess maybe because I'm just used to dining down there. And I'm talking about the individual countries. People are confused by Brazilian food, by Argentine food, um, Colombian food. There's just not a lot of knowledge, and I do understand that. But to me, there's certain things that that I guess conflict, and I really want to talk about this idea of medium rare versus medium well. And everybody I talk to here in the United States is so like obsessed with the idea of medium rare, and that everything has to be that way, especially steaks, right? Every steak. I mean, there are obviously exceptions here and there, but this idea that steak is only good if it's medium rare is really stupid, and it's not real. It's not even a real thing, because having been to all the carne asada cultures of Mexico, having been to through Argentina, through I've been to Uruguay, which those 3 places have, I think, the best cooking of steaks and meats in Latin America. Especially you're talking about northern Mexico, the states of Nuevo León, Sonora, Chihuahua, and then going to Uruguay, Argentina, And there's other great carne asada traditions or steak traditions in these other countries too. That again, you're eating meat that's medium or medium well, and if you know how to eat and you know how to cook that cuisine, you're not really going to have a problem. And so I think this idea that food has to be that way. So I saw a review from Infatuation who did mention the asado, and I did get the asado at Alto, and it was cooked more. I want to say medium to medium well, probably more like just slightly over medium, and they had wished it was more um, juicy. And that's not what we're going for with this meat. You should be eating meats there at Alto with the sides. They have these wonderful sides. Those are not side dishes like an American steakhouse where you eat some potatoes. Yeah, people are gonna. I had this conversation. I've had it online before. I've had it in my stories where people are like, "Well, when I go to a steakhouse, I put mashed potatoes and steak and asparagus in the same bite." Of course, people do. Of course, people do that. But the idea of the American steakhouse is to enjoy a cut of steak as it is, and to appreciate the fine quality and cookery of that steak. Where in Mexico, we want to put that in the tortilla, throw salsa on there. We want all these other condiments and vegetables. In Argentina, they're putting chimichurri. They're eating a salad with it. They're having bread with it. And they're also cooking huge chunks of meat with fat on it. So it is juicy. It does have the right texture, but it has a better flavor for the purpose. So if you're going to eat food with chimichurri, you're going to eat it with vegetables, and you're going to eat steak that way in every bite, then the steak is cooked perfectly for that style of eating. And Infatuation gave them a good review, but for me, that was just one little nitpick of that review, is that I felt like it doesn't need to be medium rare. That's not the way you cook asado. It's not what we're doing here. So I had the both the asado and the chuleta. The chuleta was beautiful. It's got all these aromatics in it. And again, I had the cabbage side, the the wonderful grilled peppers that are just finely, they're like butter. And then I had the the charred avocado salad, um, the scallops dish. You know, in Argentina, they do not like seafood. They hate it. It's weird. They're right next to you. You'll be in Buenos Aires and you'll be have an ocean view and everyone's eating steak. So they just don't do it. But if you just cross over to Uruguay, their parrilla also includes seafood. It's the craziest thing. So to me, and if you're doing a parrilla, a modern South American concept here in Los Angeles, you have to have meats, seafood, vegetables too. The charred vegetables are amazing, and they're not throwing chimichurri on the table. They had these vegetable dishes, but that serve the same purpose. You're eating meat with vegetables, so do it that way, and I think you'll have a better experience at Alto. um, the damn mezcal Negroni was amazing. It's got three types of citrus in there, and it just explodes in your face. It's really amazing. People are talking about the bread. Bill Addison did a wonderful review of, and you should read that. Please read our food critics and our food writers. Bill Addison's review of Alto spoke of these wonderful breads that are specific to certain parts of Argentina and Uruguay. That's so amazing, that service at the beginning. So I had a lovely, lovely experience there. Their desserts were amazing. There's this double dulce de leche dessert that you have to start eating right away because the ice cream starts melting, and it's just fabulous. Great wines. Oh my God. I had the pleasure of having a tanat, which is the national grape of Uruguay. They're specialists in it, and it's a very. If you think Malbec is inky, tanat is even more inky and tannic. But I just love those kinds of wines. So I was served two different tanats, and that was like, okay, this is a really great place. And I think if you understand the concept that you're not at an Argentine steakhouse, you are at a parrilla interpreted through a California lens with produce and some techniques and also popular dishes. But the way of eating is so very South American, and I do recommend it. If you have not been to Alto, you need to go read Bill Addison's review and take our word for it here at Taqueando. This episode of Taqueando is brought to you by El Encanto in Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara's most storied luxury hideaway. Up in the hills of the American Riviera, El Encanto has been welcoming guests since 1918. It is a 90-room property with individually styled bungalows and suites spread across 7 acres of terraced gardens, with panoramic views of downtown Santa Barbara and the Pacific. It feels tucked away and serene, but you are just minutes from everything. And I'll say this personally, when I'm in Santa Barbara, this is my favorite place to stay. There's just nothing else like it. There is a zero-edge pool overlooking downtown Santa Barbara and the Pacific Ocean, a boutique spa, bikes to cruise around town, and access to fitness and wellness programming. And the food is serious. The dining room and terrace is helmed by multiple James Beard Award nominee, Chef Joel Veland, whose resume includes Noma and Gramercy Tavern. It is seasonal Central Coast cuisine, thoughtful wines, and one of the best views in California. They also host an intimate culinary series that brings in celebrated chefs for special evenings of food, wine, and storytelling. Whether you are planning a romantic weekend, a wedding, or just need to reset with some ocean air and great meals, El Encanto is the move. Visit elencanto.com and book your stay and tell them Taqueando sent you. Everywhere you look on social media these days, Mexico City is in the chat. It's in the conversation. It's in the zeitgeist. Mexico City, by so many people, is considered one of the most interesting places to eat right now on the planet. And it has been so for a while. It's been growing and growing. Once the international attention is directed at a city, like Mexico City was, I'd say 15 years ago, when people really started to talk about it more and more. And once that happens, everybody gets into the game. People start making, they start opening restaurants. They start opening hotels. It's like, we got to get in on this because we're hot. They want to open different kinds of restaurants. And it's a great thing for the locals too. Now, we saw it here in Los Angeles in 2008. 2008 was an incredible year for restaurants in Los Angeles, where all these chefs opened up, and many of them are still around right now. And before 2008, there was just a few restaurants. I mean, you had Nancy Silverton restaurants, you had Animal, you had Providence, and then a few places here and there. But you didn't have a lot of fine dining restaurants, and people always criticize Los Angeles for being for lacking the scene that was in San Francisco and New York and Chicago. But after 2008, we caught up to everybody and surpassed them. From my point of view, and for what I like to eat, yes. You might have a different opinion, and that's okay. But one of us is wrong, and it's not me. Not about this. LA obviously has become so interesting. So many restaurant groups have moved out here from other parts of the country. That's another great sign. But back to Mexico City. So Mexico City is having this moment right now, and it's getting so much international cuisine, and those restaurants are amazing. And it's also getting restaurants from other parts of the country it never had before. You're finding birria from Tijuana. You're finding Sinaloa style seafood. Yes, mi compa Chava. Everybody wants to go to mi compa Chava, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. And I might have mentioned that before. And again, an amazing place. And this is not to say you shouldn't go to these places, but to me, these restaurants really are supposed to cater to the locals. The locals have experienced, for if you're a local living in Mexico City, this is the best time of your life ever. This is your 2008, where you're getting Thai restaurants and better Korean food and better Chinese cuisine. You're getting better sushi restaurants. You're getting high-end taquerias that are fusing those flavors and using heirloom corn tortillas. You're getting all these things happening. So if you're a wealthy chilango, and I'm going to say this because these places are expensive, you've got so many more options than you had. You go back to, before 2000, and fine dining in Mexico City was a couple of French restaurants and Spanish restaurants. And if you wanted carne asada, you would go to an Argentine restaurant. Today, they have, carne asada from northern Mexico coming in, and fish tacos from Ensenada, and all kinds of concepts that you would never have before. And all of those restaurants have spilled into the tourist itineraries. And so a lot of people now, I'm seeing entire itineraries where people aren't even eating Mexico City food. Now, on the first episode segment, on the first segment, we talked about the types of tacos you're going to find. On the second segment, we talked about the kinds of antojitos, the different street foods that are not tacos. Of course, tacos are also antojitos, but they warranted their own episode. Um, so now I want to talk about the restaurants that are still showcasing Mexican cuisine, that are cooking from a Mexican perspective. And I'm also going to talk about some restaurants that are not. And again, those are great restaurants. And it does mean a lot to me when I see friends of mine and people I follow and strangers going to places and really digging them. So I'm like, you know what? There's validity, and I think to myself, I say this again, and I think to myself, there's validity in that, that people really love this restaurant, you know, and even though it might not be for me because I do have a certain set of circumstances for when I travel that have to be met, okay, and I'm going to talk to you about that real quick, and that is I want to eat local, and when I mean local, I mean I want to eat the foods that are from there. If I'm in Sinaloa, I want mariscos estilo Sinaloa. I want that there. Okay. Now, there are exceptions to that. In Tijuana, which is a big, has a lot of food from Sinaloa, a lot of food from Sonora. Matter of fact, they're heavily influenced by those two states, so much so that they have offshoot traditions that have come that you won't find back in Sinaloa, even though it's from there. It's really grown and evolved in Tijuana. So when I'm there, I'm going to eat that too, right? And in Los Angeles, I'm going to eat that because I'm in LA. We want different things to eat. We want to try different stuff. I don't I don't care if I don't have the best New York. I don't care if I have the best New York style pizza here in Los Angeles or not. I just know that every now and then I want to try New York style, and the best I can get is this place and that place, and so I'm going to go there, right? Because I live here and I want to try something different tonight. It's Thursday. It's Monday. Tonight I want to eat Thai food, and I'm going to do the best I can do here. That's what everybody does, I think, and that's what they're doing in Mexico City. Now the problem is that Mexico City does have the tradition of burning down what came before. And so, I don't know. Now, that doesn't mean to say Mexico City doesn't have institutions. We have Pujol, Quintonil at this point. They've been around for a long time. They're not going anywhere. And Quintonil is really staying relevant because Chef Jorge Vallejo is in the kitchen still. He's still pushing it, still going for stars and recognition. I'm not speaking for him, but I'm saying he's still getting those awards, whether he's going for that or not. But you don't see restaurants from the 90s in Mexico City that were hot. You don't see other restaurants from the early aughts. They've gone away. But let me ask you, Rob, do you ever go to Spago?
I don't think I've ever been in my life.
See, oh my gosh, this guy, Rob, you and Luca, man, you know, your generation, you got to get to know the old restaurants too.
Yeah, I mean,
How about Melise? You ever been to Melise?
no, I have not made it over to Malise either.
um, Osteria Mozza?
I have been to Osteria Mozza. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, well, that's still newer. But now, a restaurant like Spago, I've been before, and Spago is an institution, and maybe I don't go all the time, and you haven't gone like many Angelinos, but I don't think it needs to disappear. I'm glad that it still has an audience. I'm glad that it's still here. I want to hold on to institutions, not just Musso, and we have Musso and Franks, we have Casa Vega, which is getting a new upgrade. They have the Ray Vega patio is opening.
Ooh, that's news to me. See, Casa Vega is great. I love Casa Vega.
Yeah, Casa Vega is an institution. But these restaurants, Casa Vega, Musso and Franks, these restaurants have been around for a long time. I think I like the idea that just like from every music era, you still have artists that are around. I like that. I don't want to go see old people play rock and roll. I don't want to see the Rolling Stones. but I like that they're still around and they're still representing that era. You know, um, Motley Crue needs to stop. Those guys are done. I mean, Vince Neil can't sing anymore. So David Lee Roth is done. He sounds like Carol Channing, you know, and it's ridiculous listening to him sing now. And so, but I do kind of like the idea that there are still people from these eras still out there performing. You know, same thing for restaurants. Mexico City, though, it just evolves and everything else is old and tired. Well, not for me. So let's talk about restaurants. Now, people do hit me up all the time. I have a little, and I'm going to give you that list right now. I have on notes on my iPhone a list that because so many people ask me about Mexico City. And, here's the thing, a lot of people that ask me about Mexico City aren't even going to go to the places that I'm going to send them. So maybe the fine dining restaurants, but usually they're always saying, well, I'm going in 3 weeks, but I haven't made reservations for Pujol or Quintonil or Maximo. And I'm like, oh my God, you can't do that. You're just not going to get in. So, maybe you'll get lucky, maybe show up and see if you can do walk-ins. I don't know. But, you're not going to get into those places. And so I'm not going to take 15 minutes out of my day for someone who isn't even going to go. The other thing that happens is you're staying in the wrong neighborhood. We're going to talk about that too. You're staying so far away from some of the places I'm going to send you that you learn quickly it's really hard to get around in Mexico City. It's a big city. It's just like Los Angeles. In LA, you would not go, well, I might do that shit, but you're not going to go to, you know, Moscow and have cabrito al pastor in the morning and then at night go to, you know, a restaurant in Santa Monica. So you're just not going to do that in one day, right? So that's what you're doing sometimes in Mexico City when you're just taking an itinerary or lists of restaurants and you're not considering the geography. So this one I just send to people. I just sent it to an influencer I know. And I was like, you know what? This guy's not going to any of my restaurants. So if he's listening, I knew you weren't going to go to my restaurants. And you're going to run to the stuff that's not even from Mexico City, which is wonderful for you. So I sent him this list and I'm going to share it with you. And there's nothing, no revelations here, nothing you haven't heard, I don't think. But I still love Rosetta. And here's the thing, Rosetta is sort of the original restaurant that said Mexico City could be international dining. They moved away from Mexican dishes, did more Mediterranean, Italian dishes with Mexican ingredients. But I think, I don't know if this was deliberate by Chef Elena, but I did sort of message her and I did say, hey, I think it seems like you're going a little bit more Mexican with the menu now. And she said, yes. I'm guessing, without talking to her, we will talk to her at some point here, that she's seeing all the things that are happening right now. And she's like, okay, I don't want to be lumped in with these people. And she's sort of pulling back. So I just went recently and I loved the new menu, the current menu at Rosetta, including there's a trend going right now of taking Mexican scallops, the cayo, people call them scallops, but they're actually pen shell clams, cayo de hacha, or sometimes they're using actual other types of scallops for this dish. But she used a sweet like I think it was guava, so it has sweet profile over the clam, and I just love that presentation. I love the flavor of it, and really dug the menu this time. So I still recommend Rosetta. Pujol. Now recognize that Enrique Olvera, a friend of the podcast, is no longer in the kitchen, right? He has a great team, great chefs. And I don't know if you've ever been to the new Puyol. I went to the old one, and I have been going to Puyol since I don't know 2005. I can never remember. I can't. There's no damn Instagram, uh, you know, evidence. So 2005, 2006, sometime I went there, and uh, and I've been going, over the years ever since. I've seen so many iterations of Puyol, and I love the current state. It's not evolving in the same way it was before, where they're having radical changes and they're trying to, where Chef Enrique was in the kitchen and he was pushing the envelope. Now it's more like they've refined the concept and they're working to more evolve the system of how you dine. Listen to episode 1 of Taqueando for that discussion. But I love how I feel when I walk into Pujol. I love it the moment I walk in that door. It's a beautiful room. The food is wonderful. If you're bringing baggage to it and you're expecting, oh, I want to have something like I had in Spain or what they're doing in France or what I went to this other restaurant that's doing this and that, or I went to, that's not what they're doing there. So if you understand what they're doing, you can appreciate what's a great menu. Of course, there's the very famous mole dish. There's the famous elote, but it's always changing. The taco omakase is wonderful too. So still recommend. Another one, Sud 777. We had Chef Edgar Nunez just recently on the podcast. Another friend of the podcast. His restaurant is amazing. He's going heavy into vegetables. And again, he's not trying to do a type of menu you've experienced before. So you have to have an open mind if you're going to go there and do that. It's also kind of far, but I really recommend it. What I always do is I just do a late reservation, or you kind of plan on going there, going towards that way earlier, finding a stop for you that where you're going to stop somewhere and then go there for dinner. But I'll just do like a 10 p.m. reservation and just make it a late night, and traffic won't be too bad. Now, for those of you who want more, I guess, predictable Mexican flavors and presentations and dishes from that restaurant, you can do the a la carte menu. But really, I recommend. I'm not recommending the tasting menu. I love it, and over the years, again, I've seen that evolve so much. But the a la carte menu could be for you if you're looking for. I want to try something that's more of a something I'm familiar with, something that has a mole that and a protein, something that has a Yucateco technique. You can find that on the a la carte menu. Okay, so so far, yeah, you've heard of these restaurants. Okay, no surprises. Maximo Bistro, still, I feel like that's a crowd pleaser. Everybody loves this restaurant, whether they're chefs, they're first time visitors to Mexico City. They've been going for many years. Everybody loves this restaurant and the style of cooking he's doing. Again, it's not all just riffing off of Mexican antojitos like Pujol is and Mexican traditions. It has international, approaches to its cuisine. Um, a really fun restaurant for me, especially during chiles en nogada season. So if you're there in September, go to Carmela y Sal. Carmela y Sal for chiles en nogada season and also for modern Tabasqueño cuisine. So she's from the state of Tabasco, and her restaurant has wonderful food that's very different. Now, she also has, now, Rob, I know you're seeing all these sirloin trompos. Have you been seeing that stuff on Instagram?
I've seen one or two here and there.
Are you excited about that? Do you
I
want to try
mean,
that?
I'm excited to just eat anything in general, but
But everybody I know that's going to Mexico City, that's the first thing they want to do. Like, they want to try the sirloin trompo. They're like, and again, I give up. I give up trying to talk to these people. I'm like, okay, carne asada in the north is so much better than that. This is cooked, you know, it's like it's a cool concept. And again, I feel like it's more for locals, but everybody wants it. And I feel like Rob, you want this thing too.
I mean, I'm gonna try it, but it does raise some logistical questions about the best way to cook beef, like chemically speaking, gastronomically speaking.
Yeah, but it's like the thing. Every influencer, it's like influencer crack, man. So Gavi, Chef Gavi, is the one of the owners and the behind the concept El Remolquito, and so I think they have a bunch of outlets. So if you go to El Remolquito, you're going to try Gabi's food there, and you can get the trompo de sirloin. You know, so go get that. Go get that shit, influencers. Um, and I actually went. I went with Chef Gabby. I loved it there. Um, so okay, moving on. Quintonil just was named once again top restaurant in Mexico on the 50 best list. It's the highest scoring restaurant on 50 best, and you know, I think the menu right now at Quintonil is absolutely amazing. Um, Chef Jorge has, you know, is always working to push that restaurant. Is always he's still in the game. He's still behind the kitchen, and it when you're going to uh, Quintonil and you have a reservation, you're excuse me, when you're going to Quintonil and you have a reservation, you're getting the chef. Which is I think an added bonus these days. Not all chefs are doing that. Um, so a lot of passion still there. Um, Now, of the new restaurants, I love M. And again, M is actually doing Mexican cuisine. And they have the most beautiful tostada you've ever seen with these layered, beautiful layers of avocado over bluefin tuna. You've seen these photos on Instagram. It's just a beautiful dish. The buñuelo, uh, that's a savory buñuelo with caviar on it. It's just amazing. The little flauta, the mini flauta, the menilla. Um, Again, I love a tasty menu in Mexico that's getting into Mexican flavors, Mexican techniques, Mexican traditions, antojitos. I still want that when I come to Ciudad de Mexico. If I want California cuisine, I have it right here. Um, Now, the only new of the new restaurants, one that I tried recently on this last trip, I went to Gaba, and again, I only do if I'm going to Mexico City, for me personally, because I've been so many times, I've been going for years, I'm going to continue to go. I'm only going to hit one or two fine dining restaurants. Usually, there are exceptions when the trip is about that we're going to hit a bunch of places. But generally, I'm going to go there for a few days, do some wandering around, and I'm going to hit a place. So I went to Gaba. Gaba is from Chef Victor, and he worked at Bestia. And there's a little Bestia. The you know the chicken liver dish is being served with a very beautiful presentation and other but it's not he's using Mexican ingredients, and but it's not a Mexican restaurant per se. It's in Mexico, and it's definitely part of this wonderful new dining scene. The wines are amazing. The trend that's happening all over Latin America, not just Mexico, is people are now saying, okay, we want Mexican wines, but we also just want great wines and the best wines we can get. So we're seeing more of an international wine list right now, not just Mexican wines. I don't mind that at all. Uh, if I'm going to Valle de Guadalupe, I definitely want to see that. But if I'm in Mexico City, it makes sense. You're spending a lot of money on food, and you want to have the best wines for that dish, and that means just about anywhere in the world you want to um, have all the world's amazing wines at your fingertips. So Gava has great wines. I loved my dinner there, and you know, I'm going to slowly make my way around, and but more often I'm just drawn back into these places, and I'm looking for places that are still doing Mexican flavors, Mexican techniques. That's because I'm in Mexico City, and here in LA, I want what Chilangos want. They want to have a variety of foods. I want that here. I don't want that variety when I'm traveling. If I'm in Naples, I want Neapolitan cuisine. If I'm in Madrid, I want Madrileño cuisine. I want the local food. I want local dishes. I don't want to try sushi in all these places all over the world. I've had it in Japan, so and I'm going to have it here in Los Angeles because I live here. I'm not necessarily going to have sushi in other markets, unless I have to for a story. But and that actually happened recently. I had to have sushi in a place I don't want to have sushi, and kicking and screaming, I did it. But in general, I'm going to save that for Japan and for Los Angeles. Um, okay, that's restaurants. Now, again, I'm not knocking, um, these places you're going to. People are going to Voraz, another one they're talking about. I think everyone's having a great time, so there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to steer you towards these places. So if you haven't been, if you haven't been to Mexico City and you've never been to Pujol, you've never been to Quintonil, you haven't been to Rosetta, and you're listening to other people saying, "Oh, go here, go to these new places," I still think you need to stop and hit the classics and the relatively new classics and the classics. Now, for chef-driven fondas and casual dining, and this includes Molinos, I like Jacinta Comedor. Fonda Fina is still great. Siembra Tortilleria is a wonderful place. Nikos. Amaya Expendio de Maíz Sin Nombre is also popular with the kids. Everybody likes it. I went there recently and I enjoyed my lunch there. Ticuchi, which is in the space of the old Puyol, is amazing. And of course, the one that everyone's talking about is Maisajo. And again, another great, valuable spot. I think I've been to Maisajo, I've been to Siembra, but it's weird. People are just going straight there, and they're not even having tacos on the street. To me, that's insane. That's insanity. And I've been seeing taco tours too, where people are going to. They're having birria de res in Mexico City. I'm like, okay, that's right here in LA, and it's also right in Tijuana. That's where that's from. Um, I don't know why you're eating birria de res in Mexico City. That doesn't make sense to me. Nor does it make sense to have Sonora style carne asada. Nor does it make sense to have Sinaloa style mariscos. The mariscos that are at Mi Compa Chava are excellent, but they are no different from just about any other place that has high quality seafood and is doing, I mean, you can get Mi Compa Chava, you can get from a street stand in Culiacan, in Mazatlan, in Los Mochis. So, and you can, there's a place I'm going to in Tijuana, and I'm not going to talk about it yet because it's going to come out in some article at some point. There's a place I go there that honestly has the same type of cuisine as Mi Compa Chava. It doesn't have the ambiance. It's not right next door to M. It doesn't have the pour over so much at the table, but it's a, it's really unremarkable as a restaurant. The only thing remarkable about it is it's in Roma. And for the locals who don't have Sinaloan cuisine, that's definitely something they want to do. You want to do it, yeah. And you're saying, I know what you're saying to me. You're like, well, I'm never going to go to Culiacan. And I'm like, okay, I get that. And again, if you went there, I know you had a great meal. There's, I'd love you to understand the context of it. Is that it's unremarkable, other than the fact that it's in Mexico City. It's a great restaurant. I'm not saying it's not great. I'm saying it's very similar to just about anything you can find in Culiacan. And again, it's under a really professional restaurant group in a beautiful setting. That's a little different. um, but again, I think if you're going to have a great time. If you're going to Mi Compa Chava, you're going to Contramar, you're going to Maisajo, you're going to other taquerias that are fancy, and your tour guide who lives in Roma is taking you to their spots that they go to, that's you're gonna you're gonna have a great time. Your mind's gonna be blown, but you're still missing out on the cuisine that's the foundation for that. And that's what I want to direct you towards, and that's a do both, or go that way. That's fine too. um, so now let's talk about neighborhoods. um, if you go back to the early 2000s, the Mexico City tour was Polanco. Now Polanco still has Quintonil and Pujol, but people were staying there more, and that was like the place to be, right? So people were going to Polanco and Condesa, and then after Maximo Bistro opened, Roma became another neighborhood. So you had three neighborhoods, but now we're sort of back to Roma Condesa because people, other than going to Puyol and going to Quintonil, people are staying mostly in Condesa Roma these days, and they're going to all those restaurants. I mean, it's such a beautiful area. And I feel like I don't need to recommend a hotel in Condesa. It's easy to find, you just find your price range. There are great Airbnbs, there are incredible hotels. But I can tell you this, if you go to Condesa and you stay in Roma, if you stay below Reforma, below Zona Rio, it's not gonna be possible for you to get out of that neighborhood. You're not gonna be able to go north. Getting to the Zocalo is gonna be tough. That's going to be a big trip. And going north of the Zocalo forget about it. And again, I've had so many people, I send them my list and they said, oh, well, I want to get your stuff that's not on your standard list. I said, okay, but how far are you willing to go? I always, how are you getting around? Do you know the traffic patterns? It's not um, rocket science. There is the commute. You guys know when people get off work, it's the same as here in Los Angeles or any other part of the world. And when people are going to work, you want to avoid those times. Sundays in Mexico City, you got to understand that they're going to close Reforma, and that's going to cut you off. So if you're trying to get Ubers, you got to either stand. If you're going north, you got to be north of Reforma. If you're going south, you got to be south of Reforma, or you're going to wait forever, or they're going to cancel on you. And, or you might have to get dropped off again around that area and walk a little because it's a bike path and a walking path on Sundays. Um, Now, for me, I can't recommend enough that location is everything if you want to do a lot in Mexico City. You should get familiar with the metro. I still do the metro. I was only doing the metro for so many years. And then I started doing Uber. And when the pandemic came, I was doing Uber and I would not, obviously, for many reasons, not going on the metro. And I kind of got out of the habit. I started to use it again. So getting around on metro, you can cover a lot of ground. Uber, you better watch traffic patterns. Um, and whether Ubers or taxis. And I think a lot of you are staying in Condesa Reforma because it's very walkable once you're there. You can walk to all these places. It's such a beautiful place to be. The architecture, the romantic setting, the history, right? And so that you can't beat. Staying in that neighborhood. So what do you want to do when you travel? Do you want to stay in a neighborhood and just enjoy that? Do you want do you want to go to Silver Lake and just stay there, like when you visit LA?
No, I kind of want to get a little bit of what it would like to actually be in the country or city that I'm in.
You want to get to know neighborhoods, right? More than one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's the point of traveling if you're not going to familiarize yourself and make a new friend with the city that you're staying in?
Yeah, I feel like in our community, and you've seen this, Rob. The New Yorkers come out here and they only go to Silver Lake and they make fun of avocado. Just to write the dumbest article about how avocado toast and keto and all these things, and that's all we're doing out here. And then everybody jumps on them and says, like, wait a minute, how come you didn't go to Boyle Heights? How come you didn't go here?
Exactly.
Other communities are saying, why didn't you come to, you know? And so it's weird. We say this shit and then we're doing the same thing ourselves. You're just like, you're in Condesa and Roma. Like you just went to Silver Lake, dude, and you stayed there the whole time. And so I want to see different neighborhoods. I want to get out. So I like to stay just north or just south of Reforma. If I'm staying south, I don't want to be too far. I want to be able to walk up past Reforma and catch my Uber or catch the train. But Hotel Carlota is a wonderful hotel for me. It's a boutique hotel. It's small. I it's really they're easy to deal with. It's not too expensive. So um, and again, I just love the location. And they got a great bar there too, and they got a nice little coffee. You can get great coffee there. There are coffee shops in the area. If you're one of those people that has to go get the churros, there's an El Moro branch on that same street on Rio Amazonas, and so I like staying there. It's also very quiet and calm. I can walk up to Reforma, and I can easily get myself to Zocalo. I can easily get myself north of town. Um, at nighttime, I like to go north in the morning and do my street food things, and then I come back to the hotel, take a break, and then I walk. I can also walk if you're at Carlota. You're not far from Rosetta, Maximo, and a lot of those places in the northern part, like in Roma. You're not very far from those. And so it's a 20-minute walk to a restaurant. I don't mind that, especially when you're eating and eating all day like we're doing. So that's kind of the perfect location around like northern edge of Zona Rosa, north of Reforma. If look on the map, find Hotel Carlota, and that is exactly where I want to stay. I've stayed in downtown, and that makes it harder to get to, the restaurant destinations in the evening. Like if you're going to Pujol, you're going to Rosetta, you're going to, oh my God, if you're going to Sud 777, downtown is very far. So I think this is the best location for doing lots of things, seeing lots of neighborhoods, getting a variety of experiences. So that's it. I'm still sticking with these classics. I'm always looking. I'm slowly adding new restaurants to my list, you know, and the new ones for me are M and Gaba, and I loved both of those places. I would go again, and I would recommend them. I am recommending them, and that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed the series. It's a lot of information, for you low attention influencer types that you want to just see a 30-second thing. These are my three favorite restaurants in Mexico City. I went to, if you want me to do that, I'm not going to do it. So you're going to have to listen to me, my friends. We're going to have to work this out,
Not naming names, not naming any names.
not naming names. And but yeah, they're all the same. So, but again, I want you to try those 11 styles of tacos. I want you to get as many antojitos as you can. If you went to Mexico City and you had birria and you had maisajo and you had, some other fancy taco with heirloom corn, and you didn't have a taco de guisado the whole time you were there, you didn't have a taco de canasta, what are we even doing? Why are we even going there? Okay. So I want you to get that terroir. I want you to get the tortas. I want you to get the tacos. And yes, I want you also to enjoy. It's your trip. Hey, this is just my recommendation. There is no such thing as a bad food tour in Mexico City. It's such a great dining city. Even if you're doing the tried and true, the trendy spots of the moment, you're still going to come out on top. I hope you enjoyed this guide and look for more in upcoming episodes. Thank you for tuning in to the Taqueando podcast this week. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode. And please leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcasts.